So I want everyone to see that Jim is rubbing in my face that he has his Utopia Planitia books there, Jim. So first of all, I want to say that's super cruel because I haven't got mine yet.
It wasn't intentional, but I'm sorry that it's an insult.
It really hurts. And then we were talking about organizing our background spaces to be more organized. But I think what we're basically saying is we all want rooms like Scott Pearson.
Yeah, totally. And to have a whole wall of Star Trek stuff is a dream. And like I kind of got my Star Trek stuff scattered all over the place right now. And so I'm in the very slow process of taking this basement office and just moving stuff around, because like right now this is all my history and nonfiction back here, except for the little bits of Star Trek here and there, and I need to move all that out of here because like I have an old enough computer that I can't put a virtual backdrop on here because it's old, and I don't plan on replacing this computer anytime soon because it's still cranking along. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to redesign the back. I'm going to clear off these shelves and put all Star Trek stuff on there. Especially because I just bought I just got as a birthday present, I got the Blue Bricks Defiant Lego set, the quasi Lego set, and that thing is like 20 inches long, right? And I think it'll fit nicely on one of these shelves back here. But in order to make the space for that, I need to clear out these books and find new spaces for them. So this is going to be a work in progress over the next several months worth of episodes, I think.
Everything's a work in process. I'm going to be working on that. I'm going to talk about something that broke my heart, and maybe you can actually illuminate what happened with this situation. So I had signed up to build the Enterprise D from Eaglemoss, the collection. And I was in probably about the 40 level of it. They send you steps of build. And I was probably in levels 40 through 50. And then now Eaglemoss doesn't do that anymore. And they went out. So that was a big loss. And I planned to have the Enterprise suspended up here in my office, and it lit up and all that good stuff. And that kind of was heartbreaking. Do you know what happened with that?
Well, Eaglemoss filed the equivalent of bankruptcy in the UK, if I understand it correctly. And I think they're in the process of figuring out how to get back. I don't know all the details, but I think unless you can find the kits that you're missing, like on the secondary market or something, I think you might be out of luck. I'm not sure if Eaglemoss is going to be able to get to a place where they can continue where they had left off, or if they were able to sell all that stuff off to another company to pick it up and go. I just don't know. I don't have connections in that direction.
Yeah, I noticed it started going down south during the pandemic, because once the pandemic hit, I was like, I now have time to build this. I'm going to just put it on my dining room table and build it, which was excellent time kill for 2 years. But I then started noticing when they started having the shipping issues that the pieces started changing and not fitting. So I think there probably was a manufacturing issue.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I think there must have been some sort of, because they come from China, the pieces, and I think even the color of some of the pieces did not match the
oh, wow.
other pieces. So I started detecting it then. I was writing back and forth, but I think the pandemic just got to them, which is unfortunate somehow.
And that's unfortunate because, anecdotally, secondarily, or whatever, I subscribed to their graphic novel collection. They were reprinting a whole bunch of the Star Trek comics in really beautiful hardcovers. And there was 140 volumes in that set. And I started subscribing kind of late into the run, late enough that some of the volumes they didn't reprint, right? Mm. And so now I've got gaps in my collection. And then the pandemic hit, and that slowed down shipping. And then like the last 10 volumes that were supposed to come out, I think they just canceled because they were heading toward that bankruptcy thing. And there's certain volumes that I don't think I'm ever going to be able to find unless I'm really diligent about scanning, secondary market to try to find the holes. And I'm kind of in that weird place now of like, do I keep the ones I have? Do I just sell the whole collection because I don't have the whole collection? Like I'm OCD enough that I want the whole collection. Like if I'm buying a collection of a thing, I want all the volumes, damn it. Like, having gaps isn't enough. It's like,
well, we always find these similarities. When I found out I couldn't, my wife is watching because I have half the Enterprise built.
Yeah.
And then I went into a fit. Okay, I wasn't angry. I don't get mad like that. But I was like, I don't want this laying around if I can't finish it. I threw the whole thing away. She's like, what did you do? I told her, I said, I don't even want to talk about it. I didn't even tell her about the whole bankruptcy thing. But I'm the same way. I don't like anything unfinished in my house. It's like, done, you know?
Yeah, and it's super difficult too, because like, I don't know if you've seen the graphic novel collection, but they did this really clever thing where if you put all the books out on your shelf with the spine out, like there's a picture on the spine, right, that carries over from volume to volume to volume to volume to volume. So if you're looking at the like 50, volumes 1 through 50, there's a picture, there's a panoramic picture of all kinds of different starships and stuff on there. So like as each volume adds a little section of the picture. But what happens is if you've got gaps in the collection like I do, that picture looks like junk because it's not complete.
We got to get that.
Just every time I look at it, it just annoys me. And
my goodness!
I tell you, like every time I look at it, I'm like, I should just sell that whole collection because I may not have time to read literally everything on there because it's like over 100 comic books, graphic novels now. But just the fact that I don't have the whole collection is just going to eat at me. It's like that little thing that just nags at you.
I gave away my Marvel Universe original collection because I had gaps. If you remember the covers, when you laid them out, all the superheroes were going in one direction, all the villains and heroes. And I could never find all of them. And I traded them out because of that. Wow, we're both kind of OCD like that. That's awesome. Hey, but we're blessed. In fact, let's start. You guys, of course, all walked into a continuing conversation with me and Jim. We're constantly talking. I know we've said it before, but we never stop talking 24 hours a day. We just actually stay on Zoom and talk Star Trek. For those of you who are just coming in, this is Continuing Conversations, which is everything about Star Trek Adventures RPG. As you know, we interview creators, fans, anybody with any association with the game who's supporting what I think is the best RPG of all time. I'm a free Michael Dismuke, which is a freelance writer for Star Trek Adventures, and run Continuing Missions, which is the #1 fan site for Star Trek Adventures RPG. And who have I been talking with, Jim?
I am Jim Johnson, the project manager and line editor for the Star Trek Adventures RPG, published by Modiphius Entertainment. Super excited to be on the show here tonight, as always. Before we jump into it, though, non sequitur, because you mentioned it, and I was thinking about it the other day. I don't know why I was thinking about it over the weekend, but because we talk about Star Trek 24/7 all day, every day. Maybe we should just do it and do like a 24-hour live stream one day and just stay up all day, all night, and just like do it one time. Have the fans come and go as they want. We'll just talk Star Trek and Star Trek Adventures all freaking day. Maybe we have guests rotate in. I don't know.
But if we do that, we also have to have sessions where we actually play the game. So we have to like play for an hour, and then people can drop in and talk about it. I mean, I think we have to actually show some mechanics too if we do that.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, who's gonna dial in for a day to watch us?
Honestly,
Star Trek, right?
No, honestly, I think we should do it for a charity too. I think we should do it as a charitable cause, something like, I'm from the Bay Area, so I always think about homelessness. So that's always everyone needs a home. So I don't know, maybe, since we talk about the post-scarcity future of Star Trek, maybe we donate to a cause like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would totally do that for a live stream. Okay. Well, people.
And the bonus is if we do it and we break it up into 24 1-hour episodes, we're done for half the year.
That is a huge bonus.
Just take the summer off. We're done. See ya.
You know what?
All to Jeff. Yeah.
Anyone who has ideas about how we live stream a charitable thing, hit us up. We're up for it. And you know what? Honestly, the people who would join, I won't drop names, but I think we'd have an all-star cast of Star Trek Adventures players, whether they're streamers, writers, maybe even comic book people. We'll see. I think we could do it for charity. I want to say, going on the conversation we started before our intro too, I think that really Modiphius and Star Trek Adventures was blessed because the same impact that the pandemic had on, like we were talking about Eaglemoss or the comic book, graphic novels you were talking about, we didn't really get hit as hard with Star Trek Adventures. It seems like, in fact, from what I heard from other people, it's such a lifesaver during the pandemic for so many people, right? So that was kind of a blessing.
Yeah, that's everything I heard. I know the pandemic was hard for a lot of people. It was certainly hard for me. And the fact that I had Star Trek Adventures to work on and to interact with all the fans, and we kept it going. The fans, we kept the conversation going, was huge. And anecdotally, we've talked to so many people, and I've seen so many posts online about it. It's just, like if I were in college and doing like a psychology paper or something on the mental health benefits of RPGs during a pandemic, I think there's a lot of mileage to be. I'm sure people have written it already, but there's a lot of mileage there. And Star Trek uniquely, because it's such a positive, hopeful future, and for like the last 6-7 years, it's been a struggle to find some hope, just in the political landscape and the health landscape that we've been in. That to have Star Trek to look to as a potential possible better future is a big piece of it. So I think there's a lot to be said for Star Trek and Star Trek Adventures, but Star Trek in general.
Yeah, I know on social media, whether it's Discord or Facebook, that's where I'm the most. Even the people joining those forums show that there's still a lot of interest in the game. I know Reddit has over 5,000 subscribers to the Star Trek Adventures Reddit there. And then I know our site, Continuing Missions, as we go counting this year, I know we're in early December now, so we don't have all the final numbers in, but we're still at, like 60, we're probably going to be around 70,000 unique visitors for what some people might consider a niche small RPG in the world of RPGs. But it's growing, and that's why we're here. And that's why today we have a special episode for fans, because Jim had a great idea about doing Q&A and making sure.
Great idea. Yeah.
It is a great idea. I know we get a lot of the same questions, but that's okay. People are dying to know the answers. So what we did is we put feelers out there into social media and got a bunch of questions. We're probably going to break it into 2 episodes, I think, because we have, we'll probably keep it to like 30 minutes an episode, and we've been already going for about 10 minutes. But we have some really good questions here, and I think it's going to have us talking quite a bit. So Jim, I think you have the list of questions, right, that I compiled into one easy form for us. So do you want to just start at the top and talk to us about that?
Yeah, I'll preface it by saying 2 things. First of all, do you really think we need 2 episodes? I wasn't sure, but I guess we'll just have to get into it and see.
So I'm just betting on our previous ability to talk. We'll see what happens.
I mean, we're generally able to stay on topic, but we just go on about it. Yeah, so that's fine.
Well, I'm going to say though, let's riff for a second. We've been so good for so many months. We've had special guests and very thematic, we've gone through books by chapter, and sometimes we just need to be able to just like let and talk about anything Star Trek Adventure. So I think we've actually been so disciplined, Jim. I think we get a little leeway.
All right, I will pat myself on the back, and you give yourself a pat on the back too. And then the second thing I'll say, just as we start going into these questions, I am going to apologize to the fans, because I think when this first got posted on the Facebook group a couple days or a week ago, whenever it was, I was a little short and a little shirty, because I was like, I'm not going to answer these questions on the Facebook group because I want to save it for the show. But I did mention the fact that a lot of these questions I've answered before at length, either on this show or in other media. But I had to remind myself, and this is why I'm apologizing to the fans, I do so many interviews and so many conversations about this game that I may have answered these questions, 10 times this year, but you may not have watched all the shows. And I certainly don't expect anybody to watch every single show that I do, because it's a lot. And you would never have time to game or do anything, because it's a lot of hours.
Well, another big plus you got to realize, Jim, and we have, against, that's why I mentioned the statistics. there's a lot of people who this game is new to. For us, we've been in it in 2018, so we've seen these questions, but we have new players who aren't going to go dig up 4 years ago interviews. And so, I think about, if you've ever gone to a Dolly Parton concert or know anything about Dolly Parton, you go to her show for the last 20 years, it's all the same stuff. Same jokes, they're still funny. Same way she plays her music. She has the same cadence, but she's bringing in new audiences at all time. And whether you're a long-term fan or a new fan, she's one of the best shows you'll ever see in the world. So likewise, Jim, you're my Dolly Parton, so you're going to hear some of the same questions. So I won't talk about the similarities, but you will go ahead and answer these questions again.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. And then I will just say, of course, those of you who are new to the game and haven't had an opportunity to go look at some of that 5 years worth of interviews, if you got a lazy night and you got nothing else to do, sure, go hit YouTube, go find some. They're all solid gold. And of course, it'd be fun to go back and watch some of the old ones just to see what I was talking about and see if it actually all came to life later products or something. But who has time to look at that kind of old stuff? I'm just going forward now.
I go back and I get upset at the way I show up with my hair, like on certain episodes. Like, what was I thinking? So I don't know. Especially during the pandemic. Oh, don't get me started on how my hair. All right. Anyway,
all that being said, should we just jump in right into the top of the list here?
Let's do it, because I see the first person is actually one of my favorite Star Trek Adventures people of all time. He plays the captain of the USS Pioneer, which you are currently hearing wearing the hat of, which is totally cool, NCC 74-700. So let's go ahead and celebrate that first question.
All right. So first question we've got on the list here is submitted by Troy Mepian. Gosh, I don't even know about the pronunciation. Mepians. Mepians. Troy asks, are there any official moves regarding some of the larger virtual tabletops like Foundry? Great question. We've gotten this question a bunch, especially during the pandemic. I will be the first to say that as much as I love Modiphius, I think we were a little bit behind the curve in supporting some of the virtual tabletops. I think that's just part of just where we were. I don't think anybody expected the pandemic to hit. So I think we were all a little bit surprised about it. We have made strides to correct that, and we are providing virtual tabletop support to certain virtual tabletops now, and we have more in the works. It is not me responsible for a lot of that. We have a team of people at Modiphius who are managing the virtual tabletop thing with Dune and Fallout and Star Trek and a bunch of other stuff. So I couldn't tell you exactly what we have planned. I know we have a variety of virtual tabletops that we are supporting and or are going to support. And then I'll just put in the usual disclaimer that good virtual tabletop support is not fast and is not cheap, and that is a factor for all of our lines, not just Star Trek, but all the lines. And there's just a balancing act that has to be done as far as like what Modiphius wants to focus on. And I think that's about all I can say about that.
I have a question about the virtual tabletops. And again, it's because I play on Discord. I tinkered a little with Roll20, but not that much. So if people currently, join Roll20 or Foundry, and they want to go ahead and play Star Trek Adventures, they get everything in PDF format basically to slap down, like backgrounds and maps and books, or what do they get?
I mean, it depends on the virtual tabletop. Some are more graphically intensive than others. Where Roll20 is like, it's pretty much, you do your own thing. You put your own stuff in there. Some of the virtual tabletops, you're basically buying the PDF of the core book or whatever supplement. And there's a built-in interface that provides the rule set that has a dice roller and list of the talents and stuff. So it's kind of like combining the character builder app that BC maintains and then folding it into a virtual tabletop environment. Again, some are more intensive than others. Like I know Foundry and I think, what's the other one? Fantasy Grounds. You can get really into the weeds as far as like pulling in maps and pulling in graphics and doing the whole LCARS overlay and all that stuff. I'm
going to ask an idea question then. So for years, you go to comic book you go to conventions, gaming conventions, and there's the actual tabletops and you have GMs waiting there at the table and people walk up and play. With the virtual conventions, are there opportunities where virtual tabletop play can become the mode that's used by companies like Modiphius to introduce people to the game. And therefore, they're not only just getting introduced to the game, but they're also getting introduced to the virtual tabletop environment and getting comfortable there. Because I think there's that comfort that people have to take.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know that I've heard much about it in terms of like people trying to do virtual conventions with virtual tabletops built into the convention experience. I think it's a great idea. And I think the challenge right now is it's still an evolving marketplace for virtual tabletops. Because like I can think of like there's at least 6 or 7 platforms that are stable right now. And they all provide kind of a slightly different experience. And I think it's just going to take some time for that little sub industry to kind of shake out. I know a couple of platforms have come and gone because it was either people who were doing it for the love, and then just it got overwhelming and they didn't do it anymore. So I think we're in a challenging place right now where there are so many different virtual tabletops, and you got fans of different ones, and they're like, well, I want support for this, and I want support for this, and I want support for this. It's like, well, we can't. I mean, not that we can't. It's just really hard to support all of them equally because they all have very different technical needs. Right. And like, some are very highly graphically intensive and need more stuff. And some are like, not quite as intensive, and you can just, basically provide the PDF and you're good to go. So that's just one of the challenges that we're facing is like, how do we adequately support all of them? And it's just, conversations that are ongoing.
Yeah, I'm going to commend, early on, if you remember early on, before we even had continuing conversations, we were doing STA Engage, and we had Al Spader on. It was our first introduction with him, and he gave us a tour of, in Steam, a virtual tabletop. And what I thought was really cool, just incidentally, he ended up becoming a freelance writer for Star Trek Adventures. The reason I'm saying that is because people are listening to this right now, and you have mastered the virtual tabletop environment. Show Jim. Reach out to Jim through social media and just show him what's going on. Because again, the point is, if more people play, and if they're restricted and they can't travel or not comfortable traveling to in-person conventions, but then there's a way to somehow get people introduced to the game through virtual tabletop, that's something I think Jim would be interested in looking at. So I know Al showcased it once, but I know you keep your eyes open with Foundry too. So that just inviting people to reach out through social media to Jim and show off what you got, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And plus, I mean, I do it on my own anyway. I'll poke around Twitch or I'll poke around YouTube just to see what people are doing with their games. And, I don't have a lot of time to do it, but when I'm working in the middle of the night and I need a break, I'll fire up YouTube or Twitch just to sneak a peek at things. And there's been a handful of games on Twitch where I've crashed the chat window. And I've just, I haven't really said anything. I'm just an observer watching because I don't want to draw attention to myself or anything. And not that anybody knows who I am, right? But I just listen in for half an hour or so and then cut loose. But if you're doing something cool with Fantasy Grounds or Foundry or one of the other tabletops with Star Trek and you think it's cool, sure, send me an email. Let me see it. Just because I just love seeing what people are doing with the tabletops and with the game, and there's always ways to create new ideas.
Yeah, the game is evolving naturally and at an exponential rate too. We had interviews with John Nguyen for the Discord bot module. The Discord bot, BC Holmes was our last one. So that only helps keep the game alive and get it out there. The easier people can access it. So I'm all for that. Everyone knows I'm always like, I give it away free just to keep people playing so that we get more product.
And I think that's one of the challenges that this is just me personally, taking off the PM hat. One of the challenges I have about some of the virtual tabletops is that they are so graphically intensive and there's so much stuff that you have to prepare and put together that it looks cool, but it's almost a barrier to entry, right? Where like if you want to just get into the game and get playing, it's like, oh gosh, there's so much you got to learn a new interface because like every virtual tabletop has its own interface. And so like, maybe one week you're playing in a group that's on Foundry and then another week you're playing in a group that's Roll20 and everything's in different places. And it's like, oh my God, it's like when we were in the pandemic and like everybody was on a different video chat. Like you had Zoom and Google and Skype and Microsoft Teams, and there's just so many different ones. It's like, where's the button? There's buttons are all in different places. All the interfaces are different. And it's just like, it was just hard to manage, and everybody got fatigued. Not just trying to, not just having to do virtual conferences all the time, but just like trying to figure out how to work the stupid interface.
Yeah, simplicity is best. I always tell people, start simple, build on top of that. So we'll go there. Good question, Troy. I am so excited to see the evolution of virtual tabletops since I haven't played around the table. Every so often I'll play if there's friends or family over. We'll play a one shot. But primarily my long-standing Epic games have been for 20 years online. So I'm really excited to see virtual tabletop evolve.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Next question, Jim.
David Lambiaz? Okay. Yeah. Email us and tell us how we got it wrong. I apologize, David. He asks, so what is after Utopia Planitia? Can you tell us anything about 2023 releases? There is stuff to come after Utopia Planitia. I've got the next 16 months of releases already planned out, and it's going to be just like 2022. It's going to be a mix of digital and print products. Plus the STLs. We'll be continuing to release the miniature STLs that we did. We've got 2 sets out already. We got the other 6. We're just working through the files and the pictures and all that stuff that has to be done to get those things up and available for sale.
For the new people, STL?
Sorry, the STLs. I don't even know what it stands for. It's the miniature file. So like if you remember the 8 miniature sets that we did that were physical, resin models, we were able to take those, because those are all computer generated and then turned into a physical model. We were able to add that to our contract that we could sell those STLs, the digital files, so that anybody who has a 3D printer at home can buy the STL and then print those miniatures at home for your personal use only. And if you need 1 million Klingons, then buy the Klingon STLs and then go print yourself 1 million Klingons and then have fun painting them.
Can you detail out? You talked about you have print and you have digital releases. Can you say the number of print releases we can expect in 2023?
I could, but I will not.
Okay.
I'm going to hedge a little bit because there's a couple of things in the works that I'm not sure exactly how it's all going to work out. So I will just I'll punt on that and say we have a mix of print and digital products coming out in 2023 into 2024. And
I tried, everyone. You heard me. I tried. I tried to get one in.
I've said this for a couple of years now, especially during the pandemic, but I'll say it again. Look, folks, save your Latinum. But there's going to be a lot of product. I mean, we came out with, I think, 29 or 30 products just in 2022. And I expect we're going to do that or more in 2023. So the machine is on all cylinders right now. I'm keeping everybody busy, not just Michael and the other writers, myself, busiest of all, but the graphics team at Modiphius is keeping busy. So there's just the whole Star Trek Adventures machine is at full blast right now. And there's just going to be a steady stream of new stuff next year. So
I've never asked this question to you. I'm going to ask now because I would love to be a fly in the wall during one of your Modiphius Star Trek Adventures IP meetings. What's the energy like with seeing, since 2018 with the game coming out? What's that energy like?
Michael, the 90% of those meetings is me staring at the wall and working. So that this energy that we've got right here, this is probably about the equivalent, pretty much. Just I can riff off myself about Star Trek, and I'm glad to have you as a sounding board and to pick up on it too. So of course, Modiphius is enthusiastic. They wouldn't keep the license for 6 years if they weren't enthusiastic about Star Trek. We have positive conversations anytime Star Trek comes up. It's steady. It's moving. They trust me to get it right, and I trust you all, you writers and artists and layout people to get it right. So the fans are appreciative, and importantly, I hate to say it because I don't want to bring it down, but the fans are still buying the game. And like if the fans stopped buying the game, we probably wouldn't do it anymore because unfortunately we're in this for the money, right? Yeah. This is a business, and we're not in the enlightened 24th century at the moment. I wish we were sometimes. But as long as the line remains profitable, I think, and as long as Paramount remains happy with us, which they are, we'll continue. So,
well, I got to say too, I think what's today, I was already talking about hold it up one more time. The Starfleet Technical Manual, which is, as old as me. So 1975. What I didn't realize, because I had the TNG Technical Manual, and then even being able to work and see the work on the books behind you, the Utopia Planitia, people are starting to realize again the power of the details of the schematics and opening it up. Star Trek is a different genre of IP in that there is a tactile level to seeing what we want to be so real, these ships that are just on the verge of believability. PDF, I have PDFs of everything, but again, having the books has changed. Like, I want the whole collection. And it's been interesting watching on social media, the Pokemon effect, got to catch them all, where people are like, I don't want to get that one, or I'm not going to get that. And then all of a sudden they're like, I get it. Because once you touch it, then I think that's something been really interesting. Modiphius maybe has figured out, like, okay, we understand we're in the world of PDF, but if people are going to buy a book, you really have to make it an art piece. At this piece for people that, go for the investment, because I feel they're art pieces,
Yeah, we've had conversations about that. I don't think these are unique to Modiphius by any stretch of the imagination, but as print costs continue to increase and as distribution costs continue to increase, it's getting more challenging to effectively make print products meaningfully profitable. And so we've been experimenting with the collector's editions just to see what kind of reaction the fans get to them. And I think the industry as a whole might be shifting at some point in the near future to more digital releases, and to where the print products are going to become more premium, like collector's editions, as opposed to like a standard edition and then collector's editions. I think you have to leave Wizards of the Coast out of the conversation completely, because D&D is really a whole industry unto itself. They can afford to do whatever the hell they want with their books. The rest of us are much more challenged, I think, because our print runs are so different compared to them. But so it's just a work in progress. But I am really gratified to see the response to these two. In fact, I was talking to somebody on Twitter the other day. They said that their Utopia Planitia book arrived, and they were super excited. And I was like, oh, well, great! I'm glad you were able to get it before the holidays. Which version did you get? And they said, well, I couldn't decide, so I got all three. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's one way to make a decision. It's just get them all. It harkens to that Pokemon comment you made a few minutes ago.
Well, when you go back,
choose.
Yeah, if I go back in time, there were times where I passed up opportunities to buy certain Star Trek books back in the Barnes and Nobles days, and I regret it now. And okay, maybe it was a stretch back then, but I always equate stuff in Starbucks term. Like, man, if I didn't have those 4 Starbucks, I could have got that Voyager book back then when I wanted it, and so now I think about that too. Some people have said, oh, well, I just had a friend over the last Friendsgiving week, and they were like, oh, that's a $40 book. I'm like, dude, you drink Pete's coffee every day. It's like, if you love Star Trek, just do it. So anyways, I'm off my soapbox.
No, but it's a soapbox I spend a lot of time on, especially with the RPG industry, right? I mean, you think of, also, to be honest, the computer game industry too, right? You think about the value of a book or a game, and like how much time you invest in it. Like the Star Trek Adventures are the core book, right? That was like $50. How many hundreds of hours can you get out of that by yourself? And then you add 5 people in your game group, or 4 people, whatever, and then you just expand that into the thousands of hours. And it's like that game, that book, I've had that book on my shelf for 6 years now, and I've gotten, aside from the fact that I'm a writer and the project manager, I've gotten thousands of hours of joy out of it for $40. Like those 10 cups of coffee that I could have bought, that they would have been there and gone. Right. And completely meaningless. But now I've got this thing that I've had for 6 years, and it just goes on. And like the same thing with video games. Like, I've got video games that I've sunk 200 plus hours into, Skyrim being the key example, Skyrim and, Red Dead Redemption. And it's just because it's such a great environment. It's such a great game. You get into it and you're just living that experience. And,
and as an avid comic collector for myself, I've been, my dad collected comics, and then he went off to the Air Force and got rid of him. And that's sad because he had some amazing comics. And so growing up, when I collected comics, he was like, preserve them. Don't get rid of them. You'll regret it if you do. And so now I'm at the point, like with the Star Trek Adventures stuff, because I'm all paranoid of how Marvel TSR went out of business. I get doubles and triples because I'm like, if I wear this out, I got to get another. I need to have it in good condition. So it's funny. I have three. I'm looking at my Borg cube and my 3 Game Master screens over here, 2 of which I don't let anyone touch. Because I'm just like, at some point, I'm going to want this as 10 years from now, I'm going to need a new one once I wear it out, and maybe I won't be able to find it. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, good point.
I freak out over that. Anyways, okay, that was that. It falls into David has an additional. He has an additional statement, which I actually really want to talk about. This one excited me. This is the most exciting one. You want to read it, Jim?
Really interesting. Well, yeah. I hope I don't crush your excitement here.
I know, but let's talk about it.
So David, his next comment is, I would love to see a book of gear, equipment, etc., from not just the Federation, but across the board. Not really a question so much as a wish. So go ahead, Michael. What do you have to say?
The reason why, because I have a dream. I'm going to put it out there in the universe. I know someone else will probably do it, like usually happens with my life. But I am dying to see a Fenris Rangers comic book. I am dying to see a novel about the Fenris Rangers. If anyone doesn't know, this was first came up in Picard season 1. That's where 7 of 9 was spending her time. And I had the privilege of writing in the Game Master's Guide and the Player's Guide about non-aligned games. So meaning if you don't want to play Starfleet, if you don't want to play Klingon, Romulan, Ferengi, and you just want to play what I'm, for lack of a better word, Maquis level or even Han Solo level Star Trek, that it would be so cool to see equipment that's just kind of like, what's out there in the galaxy if you're not aligned with the Federation or Klingons? What scrap equipment is common that you can get? In fact, I saw today on a social media post, Jim, someone was asking, if you're not Federation, do you have a tricorder? What does that look like? And I was just like, oh, what a brilliant book that would be. It's just standard, you're in space, and this is common gear, equipment, ships you may need, trade routes. I just think it's a phenomenal idea, Jim. I don't know what your take is on it. But I would call it, if it was my module, I'm not project manager, and I don't have the budget, I don't have the money to decide, but it would be Star Trek Adventures Fenris Ranger, and Star Trek Adventures Fenris Rangers, and I would build a whole book around that, plus with all the lore of the collapse of the Romulan Empire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the challenge with that is that we know so little about the Fenris Rangers right now, right? There's just not a lot of canonical lore to go with, and Star Trek Adventures from the very beginning, we've been really careful not to make up a whole lot of stuff whole cloth, because we want to adhere pretty close to canon. And give players and game masters enough tools that they can then launch off onto their own things and make up their own stuff, right? I know that other RPG companies have gone into great detail and making up stuff whole cloth, which is fine, but they ultimately ended up not having the license anymore, right? Mm-hmm. and I think it's more of a benefit, in just my opinion, to adhere fairly close to canon, sprinkle in some of the secondary canon, throw a lot of tools at the players and game masters and let them make up their own version of the Fenris Rangers, and not have us dictate, here's what we think it is. And then Paramount say, well, we might do something with the Fenris Rangers at some point in the future. And now that would completely invalidate your book. So what do you want to do about that? It's like, well, yeah, maybe we should just kind of like present what we know based on what we've seen in Picard or whatever. And maybe the comic books and the novels, if any of that's been sprinkled in, and then just throw a bunch of ideas and possibilities and bullet points and sidebars and stuff, and let players and game masters go their own direction. And then we kind of hedge a little bit and say, well, this might be contradicted by canon, but we haven't made up so much stuff that, half the book you're going to have to throw out because it got invalidated by canon at some point in the future. So
I can see that. I actually like what you're saying better. I don't think you're right. Don't pin down the Fenris Rangers. Don't pin down the Nausicaans or the Niborite Alliance. I think that's what they're called. And really, could you create a module for someone to pick up and say, okay, you've decided to pick up a group that's not aligned with any of the major polities. How do you survive in the Milky Way galaxy? Like that. And then you could apply it. You could say, little sidebars, apply it to these different groups, Fenris Rangers, Maquis, Obsidian Order, even, whatever it is. But we have a lot of gear and equipment spread out all over the different books, but it is very polity specific. And this one just fascinated me. And I know a lot on Continuing Missions, our blog has a lot of stuff like this. But I almost feel like, could we have something where they know how to build not just the ship, but what you need inside the ship to survive too? Like, what do supplies look like? And that's for some more technical people. I know we're more narrative storytellers, so that's not as much interest to us. But I just thought that was a fascinating idea from David.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great idea for a product. I think the challenge, and I think a lot of people probably know this, but maybe not have thought about it. Like, the RPG industry isn't what it was back in the 80s and 90s, right? We can't do a 96-page softcover book anymore, black and white illustrations, hand-drawn kind of stuff. Just the industry expects something different now. You expect the full-color hardcovers because we still can't get fans to buy into PDF-only kind of stuff, right? It's just really hard to get away from the beautiful books, right? I mean, physically, I got two right on my shelf behind me. And because we do a limited number of print releases every year, just because of budget realities and timing and distribution and all that stuff that I don't want to go into because it's just so boring, but necessary. To think about, like, for instance, if we were to have 4 print releases a year, right? Those need to be print releases that are going to be really broadly appealing. And me personally, I really want to have a narrative in all those books, right? Like, if you look at all of our books, there's some sort of narrative, there's some sort of through line going on with each of those books. And to have a catalog of stuff, it's just kind of hard to, like, okay, what kind of a narrative do you put on this? Because it could just be like a huge menagerie of things. And the challenge is that, like, your Klingon players are going to be looking for the Klingon stuff, and they're not going to care about the Romulan stuff or the Ferengi stuff or whatever. And you're going to have that kind of challenge of, like, what's in this book for me? And for me personally, what I would rather do is have, like, those 4 releases or 3 releases, whatever we do in the year, have them be really specifically thematically associated with the series or an era of play or something. And then have equipment that's relevant to that topic, right? So, like, Shackleton Expanse, good example. Shackleton Expanse is all about exploring the Shackleton Expanse, new worlds, new discoveries. I had Aaron, write up a bunch of new equipment that kind of fit that framework. And so that if you were interested in that kind of stuff, sure, buy the Shackleton book, you got it, you're off and running. If you weren't interested in it, then don't buy it. It's okay.
Yeah, and that's true. And again,
so it's just a balancing point.
Yeah, and people can actually go on CM and they're going to see a whole bunch of equipment. If they type in the word equipment, they're going to see medical equipment, engineering equipment. So you're going to see little cards that talk about what bonuses it gives in play, which is fine. But really, I encourage game masters and players, if you scour the books that have been printed, players don't know that if you just change the name on the equipment, where you got it from. Like, some people want minutia and specific. I've never been a minutia person. I'm kind of like, okay, I'll grab a random ship at the back of the command division because we're encountering a ship, and I just change the name on it, and I just snippet just the stats and put it out there. And if it says Klingon, I'll block out that name because I have a different alien. No one cares. Narratively, you just go into it and the players fill it in. So I know some people like the minutia and stuff like that, but that can actually slow down gameplay.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the other thing that is acting against an equipment book is that, by and large, most of the equipment in Star Trek Adventures is an advantage, right? It's a trait. Yeah. There's so minimal amount of mechanics involved in a piece of equipment that you're mostly looking at the stat, or you're looking at the lore block, right? It's a paragraph of information about that equipment. Here's the cool things it can do. Here's where it came from. Here's what it looks like. And it's like, I mean, not to say you can't get that stuff on Memory Alpha or just, other resources online, but like it just doesn't excite me enough to like fill a book of paragraphs of different cool equipment and have little pictures of all the equipment, because it's like, well, okay, so what do you do with that? I mean, it's all same. Most of it is the same mechanically in the game. It's all good flavor stuff, but it's just I'd rather include equipment thematically with other stuff, like do do a big splat book on the original series or the original series era, at least, maybe not the series itself, and then like have a whole bunch of thematic tools and equipment and gear that we see in the original series or that era. And here's like cool things you can do with the spanners and all the weird gizmos that you see Spock and McCoy and Scotty use on the show.
Yeah.
You know, give them a name and then do something with it in the games.
It's more important for them to know what it could do, not the exact mechanics, because it's not a mechanical heavy game, Star Trek Adventures. I just had a conversation today on social media with somebody who brought the Babylon 5 RPG ship battle rules into their game because they enjoyed having more technical ship battles. And I was like, that's totally cool. Will you please write an article about that? And if people want super technical, there's plenty of resources. I even think about like random tables. People can find not 100. They can find a dozen science fiction RPG books with random tables for science fiction, and you can incorporate that into Star Trek Adventures if you want to. But Star Trek Adventures is really narrative strong, and we give you I notice it gives a framework for the technology or the radiation or the medical problems. But like you said, it's an advantage or a complication. It's not a plus 12 on a D6 dice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a magical item that gives you all kinds of bonuses and spells and other bits and bobs and stuff. You don't need a double-sided card to figure out all the stuff that your magic item does, right? It's just it's a tricorder.
Yeah,
it's a phaser.
For all you new GMs and players, it's easy. We make it very easy for you to get into the game and have fun. Then you can make it as technical and complicated as you wish.
Right. Yeah.
Good point. All right. Next question.
All right, next question. Shelby Cambron says, Aegis Supervisor Traveler material. I mean, the Travelers and Aegis are in currently licensed series. Is there a way to expand on that matter? Play supervisors in the quote-unquote modern era, trying to keep history on track. How do they handle operations in the main eras of play? Well, our recently released Year 5 supplement for the IDW comic series Year 5, which is a fabulous comic series. You should go read it. We had Jackson Lansing on the show a few month or so ago. Fabulous series. Aegis and the Supervisors are a component of that series. Really good stuff. We see a Supervisor on season 2 of Picard. Not to make too many spoilers, but that has an appearance. So we have certainly brought Aegis and the Supervisors into the game by virtue of that Year 5 supplement. So go check that out if you haven't already. And
I saw this question. And Shelby Cambron, she or he, I actually am not familiar. I know the name can be either. It says play supervisors in the quote modern era, trying to keep history on track. The thing that's nice about supervisors, in my opinion, you can do whatever you want. They're operating in whatever timeline they need to for your spur. The plot is more important. Yeah. Every reality is divergent except for the one that your players are in. I always, when I write, it's like that. It's like, wait, no, whatever my players are in is obviously the main reality. Mm-hmm. I know we talked before, Jim, IDW, it was only on PDF the Year 5, correct? Yeah. It was only PDF. And it's such worth the pickup if people didn't. I picked it up and my mind was blown, and I'm not going to give any spoilers to my players because they don't know it's coming. It's going to play a major role in my game. So some people, even if you didn't pick up what happened is I picked up I first picked up Fred Love's adaptation through Star Trek Adventures of Year 5, and then I went back because I was so excited about it and read the entire. I do online comic books through Kindle. Went back and read the whole series twice. And then after Jackson Lansing and Jody Houser came on, read it again because then I had a whole new understanding of it. Go look at the interview. So to this question, and I know I'm not going to talk about. If you want to talk about Traveler, you can talk about Traveler, Jim Johnson. I'm not going to talk about Travelers. We talk about it a lot, and I can't give spoilers.
Yeah. Did you want to say anything else about this question?
Yeah. Well, no. It was just the thing is the fact that there was this. it says, is there a way to expand on the matter, place supervisors in the modern era trying to keep history on track? How do they handle operations in the main eras of play? Again, as a game master, you run that. You are the answer to that. However you want to answer that, especially with time travel and reality, how do they? You make that up.
Yeah.
It's your game.
Yeah. That was exactly what I was going to say, Michael. And I was afraid I was going to come off a little bit flippant to say, like, how do they handle operations in the main eras of play? Well, I don't know. How do they? How do they do it in your game? You tell us. Come up with an awesome solution to that, or come up with an awesome answer to that question, and then tell us about it on the social media forums, and let us be inspired by what you come up with, you and your players. I think the tools are there, like not just on the shows themselves, but in that Year 5 supplement.
God, I wish I could give you my ideas, but I just can't, because I know my players listen to this show, so I cannot even, but I'm going to see if I can be quick on the fly. So say, for instance, you do something extremely crazy and just blow up everything. The benefit of having a supervisor is there could be a lesson learned as to why they went down that road. Mm-hmm. So don't just blow stuff up. I really hate writing in movies and books where they use time travel and different realities as a weak escape to a good plot. And so it doesn't really matter whether it happened or not. That's actually one of my big pet peeves in writing. But if you do something, perhaps your characters are left with a clue, like you needed to see this because it's going to play into a future adventure as an answer. Mm-hmm. Don't just make it that you want to kill everyone and see everyone experience emotion and, but it didn't really happen anyways. That's stupid to me. But to me, I am after year 5, I had a lot of plots for my players. Mm.
Yeah, well, that's
I'll talk about it once it's done. I'll come back and revisit it.
Yeah, so we can thank Fred Love for a lot of that, because he came up with a lot of that stuff. So of course we have to thank the team that did Year 5 in the first place, and then extrapolating from there. So that's awesome that you have so many ideas, because that's mission accomplished, right? That was the whole intention, is to throw even more tools at people and say, hey, you want Tholians in your game? Sure, here, go have Tholians in your game. You want to revisit Sigma Iosha? Here you go. Here's what they've been up to.
Or the originalists, the human.
Or the originalists, yeah.
You can connect with Enterprise's human first movement and the originalists. Like, what if we like social dynamics, and if everyone goes back and watches the Jackson Lansing Jody Hauser interview, what if you have a bunch of people in the Federation who want things to stay the same and they want to make the Federation great again? Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was the ultimate PDF for that. I read it slowly, everyone, because you definitely get enough social conflict for the game. Yeah.
All right. So then, So enough said on that. I think we've pretty much beaten that one down. So we'll go on to Matt Day here. Matt asks, as the one remaining of the core 5, is there a reason behind the lack of support for an Enterprise era game? Antagonists, other polities, etc., from that era, beyond the ships we now have from Utopia Planitia? And finishes up by saying thank you. Yeah, thanks, Matt, for the question. We certainly didn't intentionally omit Enterprise. I think it's just the way the production schedule shook out on all the different books that we did, and just the way things fell into place. Enterprise was kind of the one lagging behind. I think we've done a couple of PDF supplements. Michael, especially you've written most of them with the mission briefs, and there was a standalone adventure, and the crew pack, of course. We dropped in a lot of Enterprise information into Utopia Planitia and the Discovery book, right? Because the Discovery book kind of bridges Enterprise and original series and the first 2 seasons of Discovery. So Enterprise has certainly been sprinkled throughout a lot of our books. I think one of the Quadrant books, I think either Beta or Alpha, had a lot of the Xindi in there. We still haven't gotten around to the I just drew a blank. The Suliban. I don't think we've got the Suliban in any official book yet. So we're probably overdue to do more Enterprise stuff. It's just a matter of figuring out, like, what does that look like and where in the schedule can we put it together. And this all harkens back to that earlier question from David about our production schedule and where do we slot in different products. And, we're not under any particular mandate to do X number of products per series per year, right? We don't have that requirement or expectation. So we're just trying to do the best Star Trek products every year. I think we'll get back to Enterprise in more detail at some point. I just got to figure out when in the schedule I can put it. Like I said earlier, I've got the next 16 months pretty much laid out, and is there, but I don't know that we have anything.
I'll give Matt something to play off. So Matt Day asked this question, and I did something unintentionally that ended up amazing with Strange New Worlds, the TV show. So in the first crew pack we did, it was Enterprise era. The first mission briefs pack was Enterprise era. Mm-hmm. And in there I did a mission brief called Revenge of the Illyrians.
Yep. Now,
the reason why this is important is because I based it off an episode from Enterprise, which to me is still one of the most shocking episodes, which I can't wrap my head around. It's my favorite episode, where Captain Archer stole the Illyrians' warp core. Mm-hmm. They went aboard and stole it. And that always bothered me when I watched that 20 years ago. And so when I had the privilege to write a mission pack Enterprise era, I said, how could that have sat with the Illyrians? Because they had to go 3 years to get back home. The show said it would take them 3 years to get back home. So I created the mission pack where the brief, just without any more extra spoilers, where that 3-year trip cost them half their crew. Later on in Strange New Worlds, mind you, so this is an arch I would love to hear somebody play out in their RPG game. We find out that the Illyrians are basically banned by the Federation because of their genetic experimentation on themselves. Remember, they don't terraform planets, they terraform themselves to match the planets, which I think is awesome. An awesome environmentalist idea, by the way, which everyone should do. We should match. So I believe, and go with this, Matt Day, tell me how it goes. I think it's Federation propaganda from the originalists, who basically were so embarrassed over the Archer debacle that they're so high and mighty, but they went and stole a warp core, that they created a propaganda campaign against the Illyrians, which then restricted genetic modification to keep them out, because they knew the Illyrians actually had a good case for reparations. So I'm going to let you sit with that between Revenge of the Illyrians and between Strange New Worlds and what's happening to number one. And there's some drama in there that I've been dying to play out in an RPG game and haven't had time. So Matt, that's probably all the support you need for an Enterprise era game. Go for it.
There you go. All right. And then Matt asks another question. He says, if there was one source book you could make without needing to worry about audience or page count or budget, et cetera, what would it be now that Utopia Planitia is out there? You're specifically asking for one source book and not a series. Well, I've said it before. Like if budget wasn't an issue, if time wasn't an issue, if page count wasn't an issue, I would do like an encyclopedia, like big honking, like 600-page monolith of a book, bulletproof, bullet stopper, Arab source book. I mean, if you're talking one source book, I would do the whole smash in one book and do 2063 all the way up to 2499 and put the entirety of Star Trek in one gigantic book, and just cover it A to Z, and packages full of mission briefs and story ideas and character stat blocks and ship stat blocks, and cover the beginning of Enterprise all the way up to the end of Picard. And then do like a supplement for Discovery seasons 3 through 5, because that's the one outlier, right? Because they're so far beyond the series. Like, but that compact chunk of series and movies from 2063 to 25 whatever that Picard season 3 is going to finish up with. That's a consistent narrative, right? That's a solid full narrative. If money was no issue and like everything else was no issue, that is the big like dictionary sized monster book that I would do, and then I'd probably retire after that because I couldn't do anything.
I even know what it could be called too.
Yeah,
Star Trek Adventures Coda.
Coda. Well, I mean that's already kind of been taken by the
right, but that was the premise.
Yeah,
is that whole time period, right?
I'd probably call it Memory Alpha.
Ooh, that's even better. Yeah.
Or maybe something even more clever. I don't know. But it would be like literally everything Star Trek from a certain point to a certain point, and have it all Star Trek Adventures and all like just RPG mana. And you bring that thing to the table. You just drop on the table. You break the table. And
how about this? How about this one? Star Trek Cupendium.
Cupendium. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, I like it.
Then you could bounce wherever. All right.
It's always fun to get this question because like the reality is so far from the dream. But I think that's what it would be. It would be just to be able to do an era source book on steroids and just pack it full of literally everything that we could possibly think of. And beautiful art and all that stuff.
Okay, I told you, Jim, we got about halfway through the list, and this has been a full show already. So we're going to have to go into a second show like I predicted.
I think you're right. I think we should probably do one more question just to try to get like halfway through this list.
Okay, let's do that.
Otherwise, we're going to have to do 2 more episodes.
Okay. Listen, these are all good. By the way, I just love all these questions everyone's sending in. Keep it up.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. Yeah, and keep bringing in more questions, especially if we're. I mean, I don't know if we'll record the other one tonight, but
that's fine.
Okay, that's cool. All right, so the last question for this episode then is from Dan Healy. It says the Dominion War was such a unique event in Star Trek. Any thoughts on more missions set during that conflict, or maybe thoughts on framework for fleet versus fleet ship combat? So 2 good questions here. Thoughts on missions set during that conflict. I'll be honest, and Michael will probably support me on this. Like every single mission brief and every single standalone adventure that we've published could be tweaked to fit into the Dominion War somehow if you're creative enough, you and your players. I think there's interesting potential for a lot of the mission briefs to like change the perspective. Like instead of it happening at this time, it's happening during the Dominion War. How does that change the angles and the spin on what's presented? I can't speak to whether we have more stuff coming for the Dominion War. You'll just have to stay tuned and see what happens in 23, 24.
I can say that, honestly, to me, the Dominion, the Gamma Quadrant is as ripe as the Shackleton Expanse. You could literally take the Shackleton Expanse book and drop it and say that's actually Gamma Quadrant stuff going on.
Yep.
Remember, the Gamma Quadrant's generally unexplored. And so to me, that's ripe for war. If you want to just keep going in there, go through the wormhole, discover new species, maybe there's something worse than the Jem'Hadar out there. Dan, honestly, I would say if you have questions or ideas or want to bat it around, open up a question on social media and watch the ideas that will flood out from people for how to do that. I just find I can take any module. Just so you know, my group is playing 13.7 million light years away in the Centaurus A galaxy. So we don't have rarely do we ever touch base with the Federation. And I use the modules. I adapt them to an entirely different galaxy. So if I can adapt it to a galaxy, believe me, you can adapt it to a different quadrant. Feel free to reach out to us and we'll give you some ideas.
Absolutely. And then the second part of the question is, thoughts on framework for fleet versus fleet ship combat. I'm going to probably defer to people who really enjoy fleet versus fleet ship combat to that level of detail in a game that isn't narrative. Like for most fleet to fleet ship combat in my games, I usually narrate that. I don't focus on the minutia of ship versus ship and facing and shield points and all that stuff. It's a great way to play the game. It's not something that really appeals to me. I think the Admiralty rules in the command source book, and I think we referenced it a little bit in the Utopia Planitia book too, I think is enough for what I need and hopefully enough for what other folks need to get into a more tactical level of detail. I don't know that Star Trek Adventures is necessarily the best system for that. But I think if I remember it, I haven't had a chance to look at it because I've been so focused on Star Trek. But the Homeworld RPG that Modiphius just released recently, I think is based in large part on Star Trek Adventures, the rule system. And I think they have a mass combat system in there. I'd say probably check that out, see what you can port over. But I don't know, Michael, any thoughts on your perspective? How would you handle fleet versus fleet ship combat?
Again, Star Trek Adventures is not built for that particularly. Whenever there is I've had fleet combat in my game, I still keep it focused narratively on the characters, that there's things that they can do in the way of extended tasks or tasks in order to help achieve the mission, and then narratively, I really let the players decide how it's going. We decide how much loss there should be too, oftentimes with the roll of the dice. But like I mentioned earlier, I've seen people adapt the Babylon 5 RPG modules for ship-to-ship combat because they wanted the nitty-gritty of it. And honestly, you can even pull out Risk dice and play Risk. If you really want to do fleet combat, bring in the rules from Risk and roll the dice and have the story moving forward that way. I've been really impressed. I watch Me, Myself, and Die quite a bit on YouTube, and the way the moderator, it's for solo RPG, he brings all these books in, and he just creates the story he wants. So again, Star Trek Adventures is one of the best ones that do what your players love. If they want to have that a ship-to-ship combat, then pull out the Risk board and make it happen that way, and then narrate that. But don't get so affixed to the rules, where it stops you from having fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So we'll stop there for tonight. We got more questions. We'll get to them, I promise. And Michael, let's jump into our gratitude.
For sure. So I'm going to actually give a gratitude to the people who submitted questions this time. I know I usually do brick and mortar, but I really want to encourage the fans to keep asking questions, because I know for me, it invigorates my gameplay. And I know Jim, from conversations with him, he actually listens to everything. And that's how the Game Master's Guide and Player's Guide got produced, was ideas over 4 years that got incorporated into 2 really popular books. So thank you, fans.
So you said it just right, Michael. It's all thanks to the fans. Ultimately, without the fans, we wouldn't be doing this game after 7 years. And so I love your passion. I love your enthusiasm. I love your willingness to support each other, especially when new fans are coming into the game. Especially the Facebook group is great, because the moderators announce all the new fans that come into the group every week, and we're always so supportive. We're like, hey, welcome. Use the search engine, ask questions, get into the game. And my gratitude is to the fans again as well, and for the ones who submitted questions, but also the ones who are just supporting the game and being enthusiastic players.
All right, and we'll have more questions answered in an upcoming episode. Until then, IDIC, the conversation continues.
Live long and prosper. Be safe. Be well, and we'll talk to you all next time.